Once every 4 years, a single football tournament switches on for 39 days, and across its 4-year cycle, it feeds one Swiss non-profit roughly $13 billion, close to $9 billion of it in a single tournament year. No other event on earth compresses that much money into so little time. On June 11, 2026, inside the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, a referee blew the whistle to start 2026 FIFA World Cup. First match was co-host Mexico against South Africa. More than 80,000 people were on their feet inside the ground, and over the next 39 days, close to 5 billion more from nearly every country on earth would watch. It would absorb more human attention than any other event in modern history. But here's the part nobody tells you. The football is not the business. The tournament looks like a sport, and on paper it's a game. Sitting underneath it is one of the most disciplined pieces of business design ever built. A machine engineered to turn 4 years of waiting into a single extraordinary month of demand. The secret was never the football, it was the wait. This is how it works. The story starts in 1974 when a Brazilian sports administrator named João Havelange won the FIFA presidency. He inherited an organization that owned the world's most popular sport but had almost no money in the bank. Football was already the biggest game on the planet. FIFA was quietly running out of cash, and Havelange's task was to close that gap. His answer came through two men. The first, Horst Dassler, the son of the founder of Adidas, who had inherited both the shoe empire and a rare talent for cultivating friendships with sports officials. The second was Patrick Nelly, a British marketing executive with an unusual instinct for how television and sponsorship could remake a live event. Together, in a series of quiet meetings in Zurich, the three of them designed something that had never quite existed in sports before. They packaged a World Cup as an exclusive club. Rather than selling World Cup off as a piece, a billboard here, a TV deal there, they invited very small number of companies to pay a very large amount of money for exclusive category right. Adidas alone would get sports apparel, Coca-Cola alone would get soft drinks, and Fuji Films alone would get photo film, with no competitor allowed anywhere near the World Cup for the entire 4-year cycle. That framework, tiered sponsors, exclusive categories, 4-year cycles is the invisible skeleton beneath almost every major sport property in the world today. The NBA uses it, the NFL uses it, the Olympic uses it, Formula 1 uses it. All of them are, in a sense, still running the playbook those three men drafted half a century ago for a broke football association in Switzerland. To understand what makes the World Cup different from every other tournament on the calendar, look at what it deliberately refuses to do. The Premier League runs every year, and so do the Champions League, the NBA, La Liga, and Serie A. Fans consume those competitions constantly in a steady stream of matches and highlights, which is precisely what makes them abundant. And abundant things in any market tends to be cheap. The World Cup takes the opposite approach. FIFA holds it once every 4 years and then locks the trophy away for 47 months at a time. That gap is not a scheduling quirk. It's the entire business model. Every 4 years, the accumulated hunger of the previous 4 is released into a single month. And every player in the ecosystem, the broadcasters, the sponsors, the host countries, knows the same thing. If they fail to secure their place in this month, they wait another 4 years. The result is a bidding environment in which FIFA can name its price on almost every category it sells, because the alternate for every buyer is simply to miss the window entirely. Scarcity, in other words, is the actual product. Football is what the fans think they came for. The largest single revenue line inside FIFA has nothing to do with tickets, merchandise, or the food sold inside the stadium. It's television. For the 2026 tournament, broadcast rights are on track to bring in close to $4 billion, sold across more than 200 territories, up sharply from Qatar 2022. The sharpest jump comes from the United States, where the value of the domestic broadcast right has risen 94% since Qatar. This is the first US-hosted World Cup in more than 3 decades, and it lands squarely in North American prime time. The broadcast market is the cleanest expression of the scarcity strategy anywhere in this business. Once every 4 years, every major broadcaster in every major country has to buy access to the same 39 days of live football or lose all of it entirely. Fox pays for the United States. The BBC and ITV split United Kingdom. Star Sports and Jio Hotstar carry it across India, and DAZN streams it in Japan, Italy and Spain. Each of them is bidding for the same fixed inventory, and each cycle the number climbs because the pressure between the windows keeps compounding. It is the single biggest revenue line in the entire operation. The largest check FIFA cashes every 4 years. The second largest is the sponsorship, and going into 2026, FIFA has sold nearly all of its global inventory before the opening match. It filled almost every one of those 16 top-tier partnership slots and is heading for the highest sponsorship haul any standalone sporting event in history. The names on that list reads like a directory of dominant brands. Adidas has provided the official match ball since 1970 and remains FIFA's exclusive sports partner. Coca-Cola holds the soft drink category. Visa holds financial services. Hyundai holds automotive. Qatar Airways holds the airline slot. Budweiser holds the beer. And Mengniu Dairy holds dairy. Frito-Lay, Diageo, American Airlines and Marriott Bonvoy fills out the rest of the top tier. Individual tier 2 deals are estimated to have sold for between $51 million and $75 million each. Total sponsorship revenue for 2026 is projected to be in the region of $2.4 to $2.8 billion, a sharp jump from Qatar. What the sponsors are really paying for is the fenced enclosure around their category. Coca-Cola pays what it pays because no rival soft drink is permitted anywhere inside the World Cup for 4 years. Adidas pays what it pays because no other sports brand appears on the ball. Visa pays what it pays because for the duration of the tournament, no other payment network gets to sit next to the goal celebration. Each sponsor owns the only key to the locked door. The fastest growing revenue line in 2026 is tickets and hospitality, and the growth is not modest. Matchday revenue at Qatar 2022 was approximately $950 million. In 2026, FIFA expects it to reach $3 billion, an increase of 216% in a single cycle. The reason is dynamic pricing, deployed at the World Cup for the first time ever. Between October 2025 and April 2026, FIFA raised their ticket prices on more than 90 of the tournament's 104 matches, with 3 main categories rising in average 34%. Some seats for the July 19th final at MetLife Stadium has been listed for close to $33,000. On top of that, FIFA operates its own official resale platform on which it collects 15% fee from both the buyer and the seller of every transaction. So, earns money on the first sale of the ticket and then earns again if the same ticket changes hands again. The result got loud enough that the Attorney General of 4 US states, New York, New Jersey, California and Texas, have now opened formal investigations into whether these pricing practices violate consumer protection law. It has been called the broadest consumer protection action ever directed at a World Cup. The tournament is now generating enough money that the American legal system is looking directly at how FIFA is doing it. The sentence that ties everything you have just watched together is the one worth carrying out of this video. FIFA does not sell football. FIFA sells the 4-year wait. The football is the trigger. The wait is the pressure that builds between triggers, and the pressure, once released, is what pays for the entire machine. Beyond broadcast, sponsorship and tickets, FIFA has spent decades quietly building a fourth business on the side called licensing. Panini has printed the official World Cup sticker album continuously since 1970, and by any measure, it is one of the most enduring cultural products in modern sport. The Italian company projects sale of roughly $1.5 billion in each of the next 2 men's World Cups. Its albums have been passed down school children on every continent for more than 5.5 decades. In May 2022, however, FIFA announced that the relationship would end after 2030 tournament. From 2031, the collectibles right moved to Fanatic, the American company that has spent the last few years consolidating every major sports licensing in the world. The video game story is more painful. After 30 years, EA Sports paid FIFA a licensing fee to use the FIFA name on its actual football game. That partnership generated more than $20 billion of revenue for EA over the life of the deal. FIFA, in exchange, lending out its own brand, collected roughly $150 $150 million a year. In 2022, it asked for far more, reportedly as much as $1 billion for the next 4-year cycle, and EA refused to pay it. The two sides split. EA renamed its franchise EA Sports FC and kept selling almost as well as before, and FIFA promised to launch a rival game of its own. 4 years later, that promise remains unfulfilled. The lesson buried inside the EA breakup is that even the most disciplined scarcity business can misprice its own scarcity. FIFA assumed that FIFA's name was the essential ingredient in the world's most popular football video game. EA quietly proved the name was a decoration, and the actual engine, the licensing web of league and players and the stadium, was where the value lived. There is one part of the World Cup business that almost no host country understands until it's too late. The tournament is a two-sided arrangement in which FIFA collects the revenue while the host country pays the cost. Every stadium built or renovated, every road paved, every hotel expanded, every additional police officer put on duty is a line item on the host country's books, not on FIFA's. The 2026 tournament has unusually reduced that risk by spreading itself across United States, Canada, and Mexico, where most venues almost existed and needed only small modification rather than new construction. Recent history, though, is full of cautionary examples. Brazil spent roughly $15 billion on the infrastructure for 2014, South Africa close to $6 billion in 2010, and Qatar's 2022 bill. Once the surrounding wave of construction the tournament made possible is included, is widely estimated at over $200 billion. In each case, FIFA collects the broadcast and sponsorship money while the host absorbed the debt. The host countries do buy something genuinely valuable in return, even though it's very hard to measure. It's tourism, prestige, long-term investment, and a moment of collective attention most nations only get once in a generation. Sometimes those benefits materialize, and often they do not. But the tournament happens either way, and FIFA gets paid either way. Having proven the model, FIFA is now expanding it in two directions at once. The most visible expansion is the World Cup itself, which has grown from 32 teams in Qatar to 48 teams in 2026, and from 64 matches to 104 matches. More matches mean more inventory to sell to broadcasters, more tickets to sell to the fans, more hours of on-screen exposure to the sponsors, and more revenue at every layer. The South American Confederation, CONMEBOL, has already floated expanding the tournament again to 64 teams in time for 2030. The second expansion is more experimental, and most casual fans have barely noticed it. In June and July 2025, FIFA staged the first edition of a newly expanded 32-team Club World Cup across the United States. It ended with Chelsea beating Paris Saint-Germain 3-0 in the final at MetLife Stadium on July 13. The prize pool was $1 billion. The winning club could earn up to $125 million, with Chelsea banking around $115 million, and the global broadcast rights went to DAZN in a roughly $1 billion deal. The timing was striking. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund had just taken a 10% stake in DAZN, and soon after, FIFA named Saudi Arabia the host of the 2034 World Cup. Football finance analysts called the first Club World Cup roughly break-even, a modest result next to the World Cup itself. But the seed is planted, and the design is intentional. FIFA now runs one scarcity engine for national teams and second for the clubs, and both share the same 4-year rhythm, the same tiered sponsorship structure, and the same fenced broadcasting right. The strangest feature of the entire operation is its legal identity. FIFA is registered as a Swiss non-profit association based in Zurich with no shareholders and no dividends to distribute, and in principle, its purpose is the development of football across the world. In practice, FIFA collects the largest single sporting revenue on earth and distributes most of it back to the 211 member association, one for every country and territory that plays football, a membership larger than the United Nations. The distribution to the participating national teams for 2026 alone is $688 million, roughly double what Qatar paid out. Gianni Infantino, the president who has overseen much of the recent expansion, earned about $6 million in his most recent reported year and is expected to run unopposed for another term after the tournament ends. Now that structure explains why the tournament tournament keeps growing. Every member association, no matter how small, gets one vote in FIFA elections. Growing the tournament means distributing more money to those associations, which means securing more of their votes for the next election. The business model funds the political model, and the political model protects the business model. The World Cup is worth studying because it sits at one extreme of a spectrum that runs through the entire entertainment industry. The spectrum between abundance and scarcity. Netflix, YouTube, most music streaming, and most professional leagues sit at the abundance end, where the product is constantly available, and that constant availability keeps the price from rising far too much. FIFA sits at the opposite extreme. The same product 1 month every 4 years, then withdrawn entirely. The gap between the two poles is where most of the real fortunes in entertainment are built. Almost every business that has ever charged extraordinary prices for access has done so by making that access rare. The concert that only tours once every 3 years. The luxury handbag with a 2-year waitlist. The Michelin restaurant that opens reservations 6 months out. The IPO that lets retail investors in for a single day. All of them are running the same version of the World Cup playbook, deliberately restricting supply so that the wait itself becomes valuable. Abundance builds volume, scarcity builds fortune. FIFA is simply the most disciplined example of the second kind of business ever built. Every time someone pays a premium for a limited reservation, a Broadway ticket, a designer collaboration, they are stepping briefly onto the same architecture that turns one dormant month held once every 4 years into the most profitable event on earth. This channel breaks down the pricing design, business models, and quiet architecture behind the events, brands, and industries you spend your money on. If you want to see more of those, subscribe.